We're reaching an era here where I get to check out cars. What even is my life? After all, this might be one of the most luxurious rides that I've had in an EV. Hell, maybe even any car. And it came at just the right time, as my new friends over at Cadillac hooked me up with the top spec Cadillac LYRIQ to use during my road trip. My road trip to CES 2025. Yeah, you heard that right. CES. That means this video was filmed months ago as I was road tripping from here to Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show. Let's just say a whole bunch of stuff happened in the days that followed CES, and then days turned into weeks, turned into months, obviously. That being said, I'm still pretty proud of the video that I put together here about the Cadillac LYRIQ, and I wanted to share my thoughts with all of you, and I wanted to thank Cadillac once again for giving me the opportunity to check out one of their EVs, and I hope for more opportunities in the future. In that endeavor, please hit that like button, get into the comment sections down below, and thank you so much for watching and coming along for the ride. Okay, let's get back to it. Now, there are a few different things that I need for a comfortable and effective trip from Los Angeles to Las Vegas every year for CES. Reliable performance and range, a comfortable place to sit for those few hours while on the road, and plenty of space for all of the stuff that I end up bringing. I am happy to report that the LYRIQ delivered on all fronts, but also exceeded my expectations in a few different ways. So, let's take a drive down a bit of a recent memory lane with a car that provided my comfiest and honestly easiest drive to CES ever, courtesy of one of GM's fantastic takes on self-driving, Super Cruise. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Here's what worked and what didn't with the 2025 Cadillac LYRIQ. Let's go. Now, I will be talking about my experience with this car while at CES, but I'm also going to apply the what worked and what didn't format to this because I do have plenty of thoughts. After all, this car is a luxury SUV, and we have to see if it lives up to that hefty price tag, especially for this top trim. Luxurious is definitely the word that you would probably think of when this logo hits your eyeballs, or maybe your fingertips, as there are a couple of places where you have to press the logo in order to open things. This car is not shy about its branding. The logo lights up on the front, it also lights up in an area right on the dash, and it lights up the full Cadillac name in the door jambs, and there's even a little light shining down off the back of the car. That light is particularly useful because that's where you do a light kick for the automatic liftgate. Yes, there is no mistaking that this is a Cadillac through and through. Thankfully, that has as much to do with the way that they've made this car look as anything else. The side profile is really nice and shows how large and in charge the LYRIQ is from front to back. Lights on the front marquee when the car is locked, signifying that it knows it's time to drive, and the back portion has a pretty strong angle that hides a quite spacious trunk underneath. Now, coming from someone that is quite used to that angle on the back, I tend towards hatchback cars and now I'm driving an Ioniq 5, that's quite familiar to me. What you can't mistake from the side profile, however, is just how massive this car is. The result is a lot of room for everyone involved, including when you're stuffing the trunk, where there is almost a surprising amount of room. In any of my cars, I definitely have to put the seats down to comfortably fit everything. Also, it's good that the trunk is so spacious, since popping the hood reveals all of the bits and bobs that make this car tick with no room for storage whatsoever. It seems frunks are increasingly less common now with EVs, but at least this SUV makes up for it in other spacious ways. All of this results in a car that is long and wide while feeling pretty sleek due to the lines and the various amounts of lights and tech that are splayed about. I mean, take a look at the LYRIQ when it comes to give you the side eye. While the design might not be for everybody, I think most people can appreciate it. The same goes for this interior, for once you get in, you're greeted with virtually as much lighting and tech nestled among the various lines that help make the car feel sleek. The infotainment system obviously takes center stage, and this expansive 33-inch LED display really makes the driving experience feel like a cockpit of sorts. You have access to a ton of minute controls otherwise, with the climate control area comprised of all of these toggles that have a satisfying feel and look to them. The clicks are accompanied by really nice animations in the displays above. Android is built into this infotainment system, which is appreciated by an Android fan like myself, and you have access to plenty of the apps that are available in the Play Store, even if you'll mostly be throwing on something like Spotify and then turn on maps for most of the drive. Wireless Android Auto and CarPlay are available still, and the phones do pair automatically when you connect it to the USB-C port that's down here in the cubby. But you know what, that's a good place to talk about the sheer amount of options you have available to you once sitting in this driver's seat. Perhaps the amount of options isn't the problem, so much as the redundancies. Case in point, if you're just connecting your smartphone to the system and working from there, it renders in a rather odd way because the screen has curves on it and the smartphone connected interfaces are more square-like. Some wasted space is then left around the work area. If you're a CarPlay person and you would rather use that than the built-in Android support, well, that's just what you're gonna have to get used to. Another place where the redundancies can be a little odd is in the control area in the center console. It is here that you have like the cup holders, which definitely came in handy for my tea during the drives, as did the spacious cubby that's underneath, that housed all the road trip snacks. There is a slot down here for your smartphone where you're supposed to put just your smartphone. It tells you not to put anything else, and it does also have wireless charging, but of course, depending on what phone you're using or the case you might have on it, it may not work. Anyway, the controls that are next to all of this are supposed to give you another mode of navigation, and it can be comfortable to scroll the volume wheel or hit one of the main page buttons on here, but I always find myself going to this main screen after all of that anyway. The control wheel has to be my least favorite way of navigating the interface that has so many different toggles and buttons to begin with, right down to where you have to open up the glove compartment. You have to use the screen. There is a place on here to be able to open it. The center console is ultimately nice for its storage. It certainly is helping me have my microphone right here for this video, and it is wide enough for comfortably leaning and maybe just having an arm here to access some of these controls, but ultimately it's trying to add a little bit too much more to the already reachable core experience. I mean, even beyond this area, you have so many things that you can fiddle with and mess with. Something that I know is par for the course in a luxury SUV, but with so many more features comes a slight sense of overwhelm. Now, don't get me wrong, I love that there are seat warmers in every seat and coolers in the front. As a matter of fact, I'll turn on the coolers right now. I love that I can get a massage also in the front seats and lumbar support, but the control stick for controlling all of that is way too cumbersome, and I'd rather just turn it on using the center interface right here, even if I have to dig through menus to get to it. The dash is full of information that you can actually cater to your liking thanks to another touchscreen area on the left. You can even make the screen in front of you a straight up map, while having the center console be yet another map. That's a redundancy. And that's before you get past the steering wheel and the rear stalks that are just riddled with different toggles and buttons that you'll have to get used to before finally feeling like this cockpit is truly yours. It took a couple of days in my case, but the learning curve would be rather high for someone that just wants a comfy ride without much fuss. Well, you might find yourself fussing a bit too much with the sheer amount of things that you can do in this car. When you do get out on the road though, it's about as good as you can expect from Cadillac. It is one smooth ride, which is exactly what you want when driving for long distances. Take away for a second all of the different features like the seat heating and cooling and the back massaging. Hitting the pedals really does make this heavy thing get on the move. Now, I'll admit that I've been the driver for the entirety of my time with the LYRIQ, so I can't really speak much to the ride as a passenger, either here or in the back. But because the ride as the driver has been so good, I imagine passengers particularly will still feel taken care of. Cadillac barely held back with this all-wheel drive sport trim, as it has the right EV push when you want a zippy, battery-powered car. Overtaking on the highway is nice and easy, and it takes little effort to get up to speed when the need arises. Regenerative braking from the normal level to the full-on one-pedal driving feels responsive but gentle, which is something that ends up translating into the assisted cruise control. You see, in other cruising systems, it can be that the car is a little jumpy when trying to catch up to the lead car, and then it has to brake a little too strongly or abruptly when that lead car gets a little too close. I found the LYRIQ to have mostly a sense of poise during these moments, making it feel like I really am a passenger even when I'm sitting in this driver's seat. I mean, that's what you want from an EV after all, the instant torque for that thrilling push and pull, and the slightly adjusted style of defensive driving that regen braking can kind of teach you. What does get me, however, is how much softer this car feels all around when it is meant to have the name of sport. Don't get me wrong, I don't expect this car to be a high-performance EV, I expect it to be a luxury SUV. That being said, I do find myself just a little bit too cushioned from the overall experience because of that fact. First off, the suspension is quite soft and bouncy, making even light bumps on the road feel like it's launching you up for a gentle but somewhat abrupt float. It certainly makes you feel a little less connected to the road, which is something I would say overall about the feel in the cabin. I noticed this when I test drove the Chevy Blazer EV a while back. There was this feeling that the road was simply a view rather than something that you truly feel. From where my arm is, right here, to the outside world, there's so much cushion and separation that I actually felt like I was driving like the inside of a pillow. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's certainly something you'd want in a luxury car, and I'd actually say that the LYRIQ manages to not feel quite as cushy as the Blazer did. But it is still there, and it certainly made for a lack of depth perception, let's say, when I was trying to navigate very tight spaces, or if I was trying to grab the ticket from a ticket machine from one of the many parking areas in Vegas hotels. I also feel myself getting pulled to and fro. The body roll in this car is definitely really noticeable. By the way, speaking of the parking, At least $20 at every hotel at any amount of time. I know Las Vegas is a city known for, well, greed, but that was just obnoxious for someone that was just trying to get around to work during CES. Couple all of that with the handling, which I had no real problems with, but realized that the turning radius required a whole lot of revolutions from the steering wheel. Some of these settings can be messed with in the drive mode page, where you can go with a comfy tour mode, or go a little sportier with the sport mode. I actually ended up mixing the two in a custom mode, which included sounds that the car will emit when you accelerate that are supposed to seem a little sport. See, even with all of that, the quiet cabin and the cushy ride made it clear to me that while the performance and the on-demand speed and acceleration all managed to be there, the actual feel of a sports car is not all there. I'm not quite expecting it from here, but I also noticed that it's decidedly not there. I can't knock the LYRIQ too much for all of this, but I couldn't shake all of the feelings about that throughout my time with the car. Besides, this top-spec LYRIQ is all about giving you the freedom to let go and let super cruise. That's right, this car comes fully equipped with one of the most impressive driving assist systems I have ever used. Supported by sensors and camera which are all around the car, which by the way also help achieve the virtual overhead cameras and parking assistance, Super Cruise is a combination of the auto braking system and lane center assist that is running at a really high clip, culminating in what is basically self-driving on the highway. Hitting this button right here sets the speed of the cruise control, and then a light at the top of the steering wheel gives visual indication that the Super Cruise is on and following the lines of the road. The car needs to be able to see the lanes clearly, there needs to be no other system features interfering, and the GPS will lend further support. And with all conditions met, the car literally glides on its own and follows the curves of the highway without any issues at all. This was really quite the experience, as the result was me not touching the steering wheel or the pedals more than maybe a dozen times during the long stretches of the 15 freeway, making the drive to and from CES the breeziest I have ever had. Then I can just nudge the turn signal to tell the car to change lanes all by itself. Level that up even further with automatic Super Cruise, and the car will actually lane change on its own to overtake cars on the left. It's wild, honestly, and worked a treat as long as the other drivers on the road were not being too crazy themselves, which is something I had to be alert for. Now, I maintained alertness no matter what, and the car will give you warnings via this little camera that's on the center portion of the steering wheel. It's making sure that your face is looking straight and not towards, let's say, your phone that's in your hand or towards somebody else or somewhere else. If you do get too distracted, the assisted cruise control stays on, but the lane assist does not, so you need to take control again. Furthermore, if you are still distracted, it will actually come to a stop and then potentially alert emergency services via OnStar. But the other shift in the driving experience that I see from GM is the move away from alarming beeps and more into haptic feedback. Turn the turn signal to the left, but there's someone there, the left side of my seat will vibrate. My Super Cruise is on, but the car wants to go back into the right lane. My right butt cheek will feel the vibration, and in every instance, I still look over my shoulder and around to make sure that things are all right. If someone is barreling down that lane that I want to get into, or the car wants to get into, I hit the turn signal myself in the opposite direction and it cancels the move. You gotta be alert at all times, but it's good to get these little nudges in the seat when something specific needs my attention. It's with Super Cruise that I could actually do stuff comfortably on the infotainment system when needed, because it is taking care of everything, and then I can take a sip of tea or a bite of my road trip snack and ultimately chill out. I've been going to CES for over a decade at this point, and this was the easiest it has ever been. Super Cruise is available on other Cadillac and GM cars and does carry its own price tag on top of what you're already getting, but it's definitely something I might look out for in the future when I'm looking at my next vehicle. The other thing I may have to look out for in my next car, NACS charging. I was also given the Tesla Supercharger adapter as part of my loan. Let me get it out. And this was my first time trying out those chargers. Cars are starting to update their systems and support adapters for this purpose, and the LYRIQ does it right out the gate. It works with the My Cadillac app, which has its own way of connecting to the Supercharger network and using an inserted payment method. With how minimal the Tesla chargers are constructed, it took a little getting used to, but actually you just simply park accordingly, throw on the adapter, and then the cable will reach just right. Find the corresponding charger in the app, hit charge, and there it goes. This is where I have to give credit where credit is due. The experience of inconsistent charging speeds and the backed up lines of other charging networks like Electrify America feel like a hassle that I no longer have to deal with because the Tesla ecosystem is so widespread in the US at this point. I was able to find large farms of Tesla Superchargers easily in the app and then charge without feeling like I was going to bother anyone because so many more were still available. I might have stuck out like a sore thumb as the other Teslas were there, but that will change over time. And the speeds were properly over 120 kilowatts consistently during my couple of charges until hitting 80% where it would go down by half or so. That level of consistency just means that planning and time management gets a little bit easier, and that's what I've been missing when it comes to my EV. That last part is really the way that I feel about the overall experience with the Cadillac LYRIQ. While it might not be a rocket on the road, it definitely has the performance to back up its sport moniker, for the most part. But the extra speed and the all-wheel drive actually take a backseat to the real point of a Cadillac, and that is to make the driving experience a little more comfortable. Its take on luxury will strike you differently depending on your tastes, but the brand of Cadillac has a reputation for a reason, and the LYRIQ basically lives up to it. The stylings of the LYRIQ certainly have started to blend into the rest of the brand's catalog, it seems, and that's a trend that we see in plenty of companies after they experiment a little bit with the electric side of the road. Ultimately, I can't fault the car at all for trying to give everything to every passenger, from seat massagers to in-cabin storage to a robust but maybe kind of convoluted Android infotainment system. I can't fault all of that when features, or let's say luxuries, that I don't usually have in my cars, like auto-locking, automatic liftgate, haptic feedback in the seat, let's say really cushy driving. Smooth driving I have, but cushy driving like this, like I was saying earlier, and of course Super Cruise, all make the LYRIQ feel like a home away from home on wheels. Does everything that the LYRIQ provides live up to the high price? Well, that will depend on you, but I'd happily find a configuration that gives me some of the luxuries, maybe not all of them, but if it meant that Super Cruise can still take the wheel from time to time, I think I could see myself in a car like this sometime in the future. And so, there you have it. My first ever full car video here on my channel. Thanks again to Cadillac for letting me try this car out, and I cannot wait for the opportunity to do so again. Look forward to more on EVs here, including on my actual daily driver and what it's been like for me to own it for 2 years. From there, though, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for riding with me again today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.